Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome to Planner in the Press. I am your host, Phil Hartwell, Vice President of the Bridal Society. And this morning, I'm very, very grateful to welcome Matt Mitchell from Mitchell Event Planning. Good morning, Matt.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing great this morning, having a great morning. It's been a great week, super busy, and I'm sure it's busy for you. So I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me this morning.
Absolutely. Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about Mitchell Event Planning and where you serve, what kind of products you offer the wedding industry.
Perfect. Yep. So Matt Mitchell with Mitchell Event Planning. As you mentioned, I'm a master certified wedding planner through the Bridal Society. So we have been around for nearly 5 years, but myself, I've been in the event space for 10 years. So half of that on my own company. Prior to transitioning primarily into the wedding space was in the corporate space. So was doing a lot of work on corporate style events for businesses and their clients, and made the transition over to wedding planning as I was a wedding singer. So I'd sing for people's ceremonies, and it was something that I really, really enjoyed. And I'm not sure if you've done any corporate events yourself, but on that side, it's definitely more transactional. And on the wedding side is way more relationship based and personal. So that's something that I really, really enjoy doing. So that's why I decided to make the focus on weddings. But hey, if you come to me and ask me to plan, whatever, happy to do it. As far as where, so based out of Atlanta, Georgia, we primarily serve the metro and surrounding areas, but willing to travel wherever as well. We've done a few destination weddings throughout the Panhandle, but willing to go, anywhere.
I think these days anybody's ready to go when it comes to travel. So if you had a call from someone in Southern California, you'd probably say, "Yep, I'm there. Let me know where to be."
Yes, I would definitely go.
I love it. So you were a wedding singer. Was that in a band, or were you a soloist, or what was that like?
Solo. Yep, soloist. I'm a tenor singer. So I would just go and sing at people's ceremonies. So not necessarily a band, but just a solo singer.
Right, and that's so cool. And I'm a drummer myself, so and oftentimes, if I actually never did any weddings way back in the day, I never got into the wedding drumming, but oftentimes people were asking me to be quieter, be quieter. That's how drummers are.
Always.
Right. So at a certain point, after you're dealing with people at their weddings, and you realize, wow, I kind of like this intimacy of being a part of something that's so special, I can imagine. And then you worked your way into planning. How did you make your way into the planning side of things?
Yeah. So, that was one thing I had experience on the event side. So, planning. So I wanted to make sure, though, before I started officially, that I was fully equipped. So I did go and get my certification through another society. But then I found the Bridal Society, and really, the Bridal Society really spoke to me, and I just redid my certification through you guys, and then, of course, went on to do my master's certification as well. But that I found that it was super important for me to have that specialized knowledge, not necessarily just knowledge of planning in general, but an event in general, but specifically in regards to weddings, to make sure that I was fully equipped to really do anything that would pop up for either myself or for my clients throughout the planning process.
Right, because as you know, there are so many elements that go into any event, but there are some very specific elements that go into weddings, particularly. So it is important to be able to know what to expect with most weddings, and of course every wedding is different, but then to hone in on that and education, and it's good. I'm glad to hear that you thought that if you were going to go into weddings, you needed to be educated. And we're all about education here at the Bridal
Right.
Society. Honestly, I love to hear that you did your research and you looked around and you saw what was out there. And I'm guessing that you got some book knowledge from the information you got through the other organization you were certified through, but there was still something more that was missing. So tell me what it was about the Bridal Society specifically that attracted you to us. And then also tell me about your experience after going through the program, kind of what you've experienced since then, not just having the book knowledge, but then having the support as well.
Yeah. So, I guess what I really, really liked was, and probably you've heard from everyone, is the sense of community that we have here at the Bridal Society. We can really, we're all competitors here, but it's more like family members. It's a sense of community, togetherness, and helpfulness. So I know that whenever anyone has any questions, we have our great Facebook community page that we share. And you can quickly ask a question if you're having some difficulty or just need some help in a certain area. And people are always there to give you a lending hand and give you advice. And then, just the structured continuing education that the Bridal Society provides to us as planners is great too. Chrissy is fantastic at her monthly webinars, and then great to have Lori chime in with some of these wedding webcasts that we have, that's not only for us but for engaged couples that are looking for information as they're planning their wedding. So really those two things are really what kind of that drew me in and has kept me here, and even pursuing additional certification through the Master Certified Wedding Program.
Right. What did you think about the Master Certified Wedding Program? I know that it's different than what you originally went through. Originally you took our wedding planning certification in the online format. It was at the time, it was a live webinar. So it was 2 straight days of just bombarded information. And I know it's a lot to process, but of course you have access to the class materials through your entire membership. So you can always refer back to that. But in your case, you took it online, so you didn't have to travel anywhere. You were able to do that from the comfort of your home. Now we have the Go at Your Own Pace program as well. So people who maybe aren't available for the particular weekend that a conference is taking place, they can do that through their own pace. But then once you gain that main certification, you wanted to advance your education a little bit more. Tell me, was that a surprise that when you started doing that, kind of the content of the information, I guess, was that a surprise to you that there was so much more in depth that you could get into with your business?
Yeah, I think that was one thing that the Master Certification really focused in on, was not necessarily all about events, but as a business owner, like what are some of the things that you should look for in your business? How can you effectively communicate with your clients? It's all those things that maybe you take for granted and you don't really learn through a certification program, because you're basically through those programs, you're just learning the basics of planning, right? So what are the things that you need to make sure that you do in order to successfully execute a wedding? And it just went a step above and beyond for the Master Certified program.
Good. I'm glad you were able to take part in that and implement a lot of those ideas into your business. And we're always trying to improve here at the Bridal Society, always trying to make sure that we provide support for wedding planners who are actively planning weddings and just under the gun with not only the logistics of the wedding, which, as we know, it's super complicated in so many details, but then also the day-to-day running of your business and sustaining that success and making sure that you don't burn out. So I'm glad you were able to take advantage of that. What's your favorite part, would you say, about planning weddings, Matt?
So I'm a bit, so not only am I a constant student, so I enjoy learning, but I enjoy the teaching aspect too. So clients don't do wedding planning on a daily basis. So this is something very new to them. They don't really have that much knowledge in the space. So it's something, the part that I enjoy the most is kind of that education phase of me really taking the time to take them through what is the process of planning. How do we appropriately budget for their day? What are the elements that we need to consider in the design, and how do we execute to make sure that we're on task and that their day is great. So it's those things that I really like taking clients through. And then when we get there, then they see the final product, and it's just that's the reward for me, right? So as soon as they walk in and see their either ceremony and or reception space, and their eyes light up, that's, out of all the things that we went through, especially now, I just finished up a wedding last Sunday, and typically, we might have a client for a year. This was a 2-year client due to the pandemic. So it was such a long stretch of time that we'd spent together. It was so good to finally see that event come to life, and to see their faces, and finally get it done. So those are really the things that I enjoy the most.
You were really on a long-term journey. It was supposed to be a quick little ferry ride, and it
Yeah.
turned into a journey across the ocean. So with most of your clients, I can imagine we're hearing that over and over from our thousands of certified wedding planners all across the country and all across the world. It's fun to finally see some of this backlog and these double bookings kind of start to make their way, and people actually able to get that done. Now, it looks a little different than probably what they were expecting. Most people went into their original planning process before this whole pandemic started with a certain idea of what their wedding was going to look like. And as as planners, we have to really just help them guide them through the grieving process almost sometimes when things don't work out for whatever reason, and various sets of circumstances, things don't work out exactly the way they planned. But I can imagine it's satisfying to help them through that process and see them through the entire thing, and then be a part of their lives afterwards as well. Are you part of some of your clients' lives now, even now after their event's over?
Oh yeah, absolutely. When I tell them, as soon as they sign the contract, I said, well, we might be contractually obligated for this amount of time, but you've got me forever, really. So I do. That's one thing that I love is making sure that I stay in contact with my clients. This is really the start of a lot of their journey together. So, we're getting one of my past brides just had her first child. So, it was great to be able to celebrate that with her as well. So yeah, I just love to stay connected in my clients' lives, see where they're at, when they're buying new homes and moving to this or that, or, having additions to their families. It's all great and things that I like to stay connected with.
That's so great. And I'm glad to hear that you're taking it seriously too, as well. Some people get into the wedding planning industry and, think it's all about buying flowers and picking out dresses and all the fun stuff, which it is about that as well. But there's so many details that go into every wedding.
Yes.
And when you walk into an event space and you see that everything's put together and the music is just right and the lighting is just right and the tent is perfect and everything and the beverages are being presented to the guests, that doesn't just happen by accident, folks. That happens from a whole lot of planning. So people who are in the wedding and event planning industry need to realize how important it is to take it seriously and to see it as a real business, as a real industry that needs the standards elevated. So we appreciate that you take it so seriously as well. And then that leads me into my next question. So to give me an idea or an example of a situation where, if there weren't a wedding planner on that event, things probably would have gone really south really quickly, and maybe you fixed it and the client never even heard about it. Do you have any fun stories like that you can share with us?
Yeah. So, so I maybe didn't answer this earlier. So there's basically two types of clients that I work with. I do what I call wedding management, and then I do full planning for clients. Wedding management is really for couples that are pretty much do-it-yourselfers. They enjoy the planning process, and kind of have a great idea of what they want their day to look like. But I'm there with them as they tick off those things that they need to do in order to have a successful event. And then I take over professionally at least a month out, just to make sure that everything is buttoned up and taken care of prior to the actual date, and then taking them through the execution of the event. So that's where, I've found some issues when I'm not necessarily in for the entire process. Some things can be just overlooked. So, I always like to tell my clients, hey, send me any contract, even if I'm not going to be taking over until, later down the line. Make sure you send me all of your contracts so that I can review them, because you and I have talked, we've discussed, I have an understanding of what your event will look like. And I want to make sure that as you're hiring your vendors, that everything makes sense and matches up. I found out through one of them that they had hired a band for 5 hours and their reception was 6 hours long. So what are we doing for the last hour? So, it's those things that I can really add value for too, just to make sure that everything makes sense and that we don't show up on day of and then, an hour before you end, the band's packing up and you have no entertainment for the rest of the evening. So, those are really, that's just a small example of where planners can really add value, is just making sure that those things that maybe you didn't consider are thought through.
That's true. I can't stress that enough. It's important to have someone with an eagle eye view of the entire event, kind of just glancing over. It's not really a control thing. It's not a power trip thing. It's a smooth thing. It's
Right.
I want this event and to go so smoothly from the guest perspective, from the couple's perspective, from their family's perspective. And you also want, I can imagine, the event to go smoothly from all of the vendors' perspective as well, right? You're really thinking
Absolutely.
about the event in all aspects of it. And that's important to know. Like, for example, if I were a photographer, I'm of course concerned about the photography. I want to make sure
Yep.
that pictures happen in a certain time. Maybe I'm looking at the sunset. When's that going to be? I've already taken a look at the site and I've checked out the venue, and I know the shadows are going to be in a certain place at a certain time. So I'm really concerned about the timing, right, of the event. Well, that's fine and dandy for you, Mr. Photographer, but there are about 4,998 other details in addition to
Yep.
that you're also interested in as well. So it's all about orchestrating, and I love that
It is.
yeah, that you're a part of that. Do you find sometimes that you're on property with, let's say, a venue where they're not maybe used to working with a professional wedding planner? Have you found sometimes that they're surprised when they work with you as a well-trained master certified wedding planner? Do they sometimes say, wow, Matt, this was a completely different kind of experience working with you than
Yes.
other planners?
Yes, I hear that a lot, which is great. I mean, I want to be that go-to person. I want, whenever a venue manager sees me, sees my name pop across their screen, they're like, oh gosh, yes, we can, we know that this event is going to go smoothly and have no issues. So that's something that I really take pride in. And, I want to make sure that people are doing their job, right? So I've come across a lot of venue managers that are there to really just, manage their space, but they've
Sure.
had to step in as wedding planners because they didn't have, like, a client didn't have one day of, and it's something that's, super stressful for them. So I want to make sure, that everything on my end is super buttoned up. So kind of as you talked about, Phil, communication is key with me, not only for my client and myself, but also to the vendor team. So, we like to reach out to them and make sure that those questions are answered prior to, that their needs are met. So talking through with that photographer, hey, are there any things that you specifically want to capture that we need to consider while we're making our master timeline of the day? and making sure that we're thinking through all that while we're incorporating everyone else's, things that they need in order to make it successful. But yeah, I've heard a lot from venue managers, from photographers, and from bands and or DJs that we've made the process super smooth, because again, it's all about communication. A lot of times we rely on DJs and bands for those MC moments, and I just always like to keep them informed. So where are we now? Even though we have a timeline of the day, things maybe don't always stick to the timeline. You might be early, you might be a little late. So just communicating that with everyone and letting them know where we are really goes a long way and makes sure that the experience for everyone, not necessarily just your clients and their guests, but also that vendor team, is also a great experience.
Yeah, I love to hear that. That's so great. And it really does make a difference if you're able to communicate way ahead of the event with the team in that pre-planning. I know that sometimes we wedding planners it almost seems like sometimes some vendors tend to roll their eyes at us like, oh, okay, or am I getting more information from this planner? Who is this guy trying to tell me I've done 1 million weddings? Well, that's not really what it's all about. It's, yes, we've all done 1 million weddings, and we all know that it could be done without a planner or a coordinator. But should it be? Just because something can be done and thrown together at the last minute doesn't mean it should be, or that that's the best case scenario. So all of this extra communication that we do between the vendors is all to the end goal of smoothness and peace. Really, in the end of it, that's what it's all about: is peace and happiness, and everyone being happy at the end of the day. So that's great. Yep. That's great. So at a certain point, Matt, you actually became an ambassador for the Bridal Society. Tell me a little bit about that and why it was that you wanted to serve as an ambassador for the Bridal Society.
Yeah, that's right. So I think we're like at month 5 or 6 at this point. So yeah, I've had such a great experience with the Bridal Society that I wanted to make sure that other people out there were getting to know more about the society and what it has to offer. As you mentioned, there's a lot of people out there that do planning and that are qualified, but there's also a lot of people out there that are new to the industry that maybe they have a base knowledge like I did. I was 5 years into the event space, so I had that base knowledge, but again, we just need to make sure that it's specialized knowledge in specifically in the wedding space, if that's the events that they're doing. So, really making sure that people are knowledgeable about the wedding process. And as you mentioned, elevating the knowledge and the experience that planners are providing to clients is super important. And so I just want to make sure that I'm spreading that message to, my fellow colleagues. But it's, we can all stand to learn something, right? So it's not only for those that are new into the industry, but it's, for people that are seasoned as well. Like I mentioned, I was in the space already for 5 years before I decided to take the training. So there's always information and knowledge out there that people can learn and absorb. And it only makes you better and more marketable as a business owner. So those are some of the reasons that I chose to become an ambassador and really kind of be that resource for people that have questions about the Bridal Society. And then, of course, like I said, to spread that message of what we want to accomplish here in the industry as a whole.
Right. It really is about community over competition. It says a lot about you, Matt, that you would be willing to spread information about the Bridal Society with other wedding planners who might actually be in your same market. So they're actually competition, right? And so it seems so strange in many industries to why would I want my competition to have any advantage over me, right? But it's not about that. What it's about is raising the standards in the industry as well, so that when someone says wedding planner, okay, that's one thing. When someone says certified wedding planner or master certified wedding planner, that really does mean something. That means that this person takes their job seriously, that they are not arrogant enough to think that can't learn, there's nothing new to learn in the world, but that they are a part of a community that is of like-minded folks, but also of you've got that backup. So in other words, if you have a wedding this weekend, Matt, that for whatever reason your assistant doesn't get sick or something, you would have a backup of other certified wedding planners that are in your same Atlanta area who would be able to help you probably instantly, wouldn't they?
Yeah, yeah. And that was, as I've said, I've seen it numerous times in our community page, is anytime that people need anything, they can just reach out and people are always willing to assist, which is great. You can't do at it alone, right? There's always times where there might be an emergency or something along those lines. So building those connections is great. And another beauty is we're all busy now, thank goodness. 2020 was a little rough, but I have people in the Bridal Society that are certified wedding planners that I refer business to. If I'm not available, then I say, you know what, I apologize, we're booked for that day, but I'd love for you to check out, here's top 2 certified wedding planners here in the area. Why don't you give them a contact and see if they're available for your day? So it's me also, it's peace of mind for me knowing that these potential clients are still taken care of, that they have a qualified person that's there that can help them if I can't.
I love to hear that, because let's just face it, there are 52 weeks in the year. And so there are only so many weddings that we can all take. And I know that I would not want to take 50. I mean, maybe another vendor, if you're a
Yes.
DJ or offering some other service, you may want to take more than one wedding a weekend. But my goodness, as a planner with all of that, would you ever in your wildest dreams want to take more than 52 weddings?
No.
Not in my wildest dreams. So that is important, to be able to have a network of people you can refer clients to who you may not have the schedule for. So that's great.
Yep.
So before I let you go, Matt, tell our listeners how they can get a hold of you, and again, remind us what area of the country you serve.
Yep. So again, based out of Atlanta, Georgia. So if you're in around the Metro Atlanta area, I've been going north. That's up in your neck of the woods, Phil. Been down south too. So anywhere in Atlanta and beyond. And if you would like to contact me, you can visit our website at mitchelleventplanning.com, or you can reach out to us on all social platforms at Mitchell Event Planning.
That's so great, man. I can personally attest you took care of some of our very dear friends. Their daughter was married just recently, and you did such a great job. They had such great things to say about you, and we really appreciate you taking care of them as if they were family. That's what they felt like they were taken care of. So we appreciate that. And if you're in need of a wedding planner or event planner anywhere in the Southeast, give Matt a call. If you're interested in the field of wedding planning, if you're thinking about going into wedding planning, I think Matt would agree with me that joining the Bridal Society would be a great first step for you. And just go to thebridalsociety.com and you can see all of our certification programs that are available. We'd love to have you as part of that. And then Matt, we forgot to even mention it, that part of completing our wedding planning certification includes lifetime membership. So you have access to all those many benefits, the special discounts with our industry partners, the continuing workshops on wedding planning on a wide variety of things. And that's all included in the membership. So if you're interested, go to thebridalsociety.com. Well, thanks so much, Matt, for joining me this morning. It's been great having you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Phil. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Make it a great day, everyone. And join me next time on Planner in the Press. Thanks now.